Hey guys, it's me, the Runescape historian, back with another mediocre video. Today I would like to talk to you guys about the miasmic spells. If you guys don't know what the miasmic spells are, it's okay, they're very old and they're no longer in the game they were originally in, so let's hop right into it. So first and foremost, I feel it is very pertinent to mention every one of these miasmic spells could not be cast if you did not have a zuriel staff. Zuriel staff was required for each and every iteration of a miasmic spell. Interestingly enough, the non-corrupted zuriel staff required 78 magic to wield. This meant that the Miasmic Rush at 61 magic and the Miasmic Burst at 73 magic could only be used while wielding a corrupted zuriel staff. So I feel like a great way to structure this would be to start at the lowest tier miasmic spell and then work up to Miasmic Barrage and talk more in depth about Miasmic Barrage, as that's what the thumbnail and title of the video is about. So first and foremost, we have Miasmic Rush, a single target 61 magic requirement spell that could hit a max damage of 180, that's 18 on old school standards, and it would half for 12 seconds your opponent's melee and range weapon speeds. This meant like an MSB, it would make it slow as molasses pretty much. It was very noticeable and very annoying to deal with. So moving on, we have our first Miasmic Multi-Target spell requiring 73 magic, Miasmic Burst. It hit a max damage of 240, 24 by old school standards. That meant it could hit up to 9 enemies for a total of 2160 damage, 2160 total. And it would have the same effect as Miasmic Rush. You'll notice all of these share this key characteristic. It would half your opponent's range and melee weapon speeds by half for 24 seconds. I think I said half twice, but you get the point. Very annoying. Next up, we're back to single target with Miasmic Blitz requiring 85 magic. It could hit a max hit of 280, 28 by old school standards, and it would half your opponent's melee and range weapons for 36 seconds. Miasmic Blitz actually had somewhat of a place in team-based fights, as you wouldn't want a Miasmic Barrage all around an enemy because it could hit your teammates and half their weapon speeds as well for 48 seconds, and that was no good. So it should go without saying that being able to half your opponent's weapon speeds in terms of melee and range was very powerful. The first cost of the spell would be GP wise, as Miasmic Barrage, when you factored in the zuriel staff degrading and the cost of keeping that up, was the second most powerful spell in all of RuneScape before its removal. The second cost, I guess you could call it that, is through my research in low-level Edge Wilderness and low-level pking spots, if someone was hit with a Miasmic Barrage multiple times, they would usually just flee. They did not want to fight anyone that used Miasmic Barrage unless they too were using Miasmic Barrage. It was very annoying to deal with, and ultimately was just seen as very obnoxious, and if people got hit by it, if they didn't want to deal with it, they would just leave. They would just teleport or run away. To illustrate how annoying it is, check out this clip right here where the other person is using a whip, normally a very fast weapon. When they get hit by the Miasmic Barrage and it goes through and the effect applies to them, it makes the whip look painfully slow when compared to its normal speed. That's to be expected because it's halved, but just the visual representation of it's just insane, like how slow it makes it. So we've seen the effect in action from Miasmic Barrage. This lasted 48 seconds, by the way, but on top of that, it also had a nice base damage, being able to hit 352 base damage with no other boosts in place. That's a total of 2,912 damage max if you hit all 9 targets, with 10% extra damage being applied to the initial target of the barrage. So you might be thinking, wow, that's overpowered. And some people really thought it was. Some of the feedback, enforces what I said earlier based on my research, that when people got hit by a Miasmic Barrage, if they weren't prepared for it, they would just leave. They'd be like, nope, I'm not dealing with that right now. That's obnoxious. So based on what I've shown and what I've told you, you might be like, oh, that's why it's not in the game anymore. It was too overpowered. It was too annoying to deal with. They must have removed it. No, it actually got removed with the introduction of Evolution of Combat, just because they didn't really work with Evolution of Combat very well. So all the miasmic spells from Miasmic Rush all the way to Miasmic Barrage were removed. A few years after the introduction of Evolution of Combat and the removal of all the miasmic spells, Miasmic Barrage was reintroduced. Not the other miasmic spells, just Barrage. But it wasn't in the way that you would think. So on January 24th of 2014, a Combat Improvements beta was released to members and free-to-play players. This ultimately allowed them to test new mechanics for the Evolution of Combat, including a new ability called Revolution, the re-release of special attacks, and PvP refinements. Miasmic Barrage was not reintroduced as a standalone spell as it once was. It was reintroduced as a special attack on the zuriel staff. sharing the same name, Miasmic Barrage. It would consume 100% adrenaline, or 100% special attack, and also 100 charges on the staff, which is equivalent to 0.1% of a maximum charge on a staff. A magic attack would be launched at the opponent. It would deal up to 200% ability damage. It would reduce their attack speed by a tick for 15 seconds, and it would half their adrenaline gain for 15 seconds. Now, as a non-RS3 player, I mean, I've played it, but I don't really main the game. That sounds obnoxious, so maybe it's decent again, but I'm not too sure how PvP is on there now. So there is that. And ultimately, guys, that's the story of Miasmic Barrage, how it was introduced, you know, how it was used, what effect it had. Ultimately, everything very important about Miasmic Barrage and its removal and reintroduction. So I know this was pretty short, guys, and I haven't seen you guys I haven't spoken to you guys in a few weeks, but I really am trying to be more active on here. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one despite it only being probably a few minutes. And yeah, guys, I love talking to you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you like the Miasmic Barrage? And also be sure to hit all the stupid buttons, leave a heart on the video, whatever people do nowadays. All right, guys, later.